On today's episode, I sit down with Mike Zagare. Mike is a former physio turned e-commerce entrepreneur, launching everything from PPC Entourage to his agency arm to everything in between. He's got hugely aspirational goals and talks a lot about focus and how to actually achieve all that you want to achieve. I really enjoyed sitting down with him. I hope you guys enjoy listening in. Hi, and welcome to Successful Scales, the show where I interview now successful professionals about their journey and try and garner insights onto any tips that can be applied to your business at home. Whether it's financial freedom or the exit of your company, wherever your journey may take you, the idea here is to simply learn from those who have done it before. I hope you enjoy and you get some value out of this. Buckle up and enjoy the episode. Mike, welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to hop on.
Yoni, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
For sure. Well, mate, we've had some great back and forths, and I feel like every time we sit down together, it just ends up being this long-winded conversation of something that was nothing based on what the agenda was supposed to be. So hopefully, because I'm not the best at keeping things on track, but hopefully I can do a better job of that today. So before we kind of get into those nuggets of wisdom that you'll obviously share with people around the challenges that existed in your experience, I think it's probably a good starting point to maybe tell people a little bit about your experience and who is the guy I'm sitting in front of.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I consider myself a recovering physical therapist. And I say this because I spent about 10 years doing physical therapy, pretty much miserable. But in those 10 years, I built a home care physical therapy business. So I got my feet wet in business and I learned how to build systems. I learned how to manage a team who was going into these different homes across New York. And I got a taste for it so that when Amazon was available, that opportunity became available, I was ready to take it on because I just knew physical therapy wasn't right for me. So that is who I am. In 2015, I started an Amazon-based company, and we started selling on Amazon in the pet supply category, and we did really, really well. Most of that was because of advertising. And I had no idea. I had no, Google background in advertising or anything like that, or SEO background. But I learned Amazon sponsored product inside and out, like in 2016. And because of that, we were able to scale one brand, and it was very easy to do back then. But then we took the systems that we built, we made the Blueprint series to help a lot of other sellers out. And then we also built the PPC Entourage tool in 2016. And here we are 4 years later. I get to go on great calls like with Yoni. We talk about the vision of the future for e-commerce and all these different great projects that are coming out from it. So very excited to be here, Yoni.
Yeah, mate. I actually didn't know that was your background before. I know you as the guy who is the PPC master when it comes to all things Amazon and running the agency. So pretty cool for me just to find out some of your background there.
Yeah, I haven't treated a patient since 2016. I remember the date, January 21st, 2016, and my license has recently expired. So there's no going back for me.
Well, I think you're on to a winner here, mate. It sounds like you're helping a lot of people and a lot of businesses. So I think the world's definitely a better place with you, looking at scale and actually doing things to help the masses. So yeah, really, again, appreciate your time. So you've come in here. You've obviously transitioned. You're working now in something that, whether it was purpose driven or not, you've stumbled upon something that you've really turned into, carving out a real niche here. When we talk about PPC Entourage as a tool, there's not a whole lot of players in this space that are doing things that I'm aware of and that I've come across. But maybe you could just tell us a little bit more about PPC Entourage, because I'm just curious to understand kind of the mechanics there a little bit.
Yeah, so it's become a bit of a crowded space over the last couple of years. But back when I started, there was really one other tool, and there was a couple of all-in-one tools that were tinkering in the space back then. And now they do have a PPC manager built into their tool. But we wanted to build a really robust set of tools to help sellers who really did not want to get into spreadsheets. When I take a look at spreadsheets, my eyes cross. And I'm like, you know what? It's probably not just me who, when I see a spreadsheet, I have absolutely no idea what to do, nor do I have the passion to learn what to do. I just don't see that, didn't see the need. But I knew that there was an opportunity right there to turn that pain point into a tool or a software. And back then in 2016, we made it come to life. To be honest, back then I really had no clue what I was doing. I have to be honest, absolutely no idea what I was doing, and I made 1,000 mistakes. And maybe we'll go over some of those mistakes today, or not. But the point is, it was kind of just like, let's just make a piece of software. Let's do it. I have a physical therapy background, so made a lot of mistakes, but we wanted to really fill that need in the marketplace to scale a business using advertising. And back then, it was as simple as throwing hundreds or thousands of keywords into a campaign, knowing how to find them, and then just like letting all hell break loose. And a lot of times, it actually worked really well because you didn't. It was so new, but now you need a system in place. I know we're talking about that today. You need a system to structure campaigns. You need a system to find the right keywords. You need a system to find your audience. All of these different things make up a really good campaign strategy. Whereas back in the day, it was so simple and easy. So just like Amazon advertising, PPC Entourage has evolved. And over the years, we've added all these different tools and features and automations. And the core of our tool still, though, to this day, is to help sellers eliminate the need to use spreadsheets.
Love it, love it. That is the bane of my existence. You start talking about V lookups and everything that relates to to the Excel world, and you've lost me. I think I'm more. We are talking a bit before, but I'm a lot more like you in sort of the creative mind, and that to me is it's too structured. So for sure, I think
Yep.
that's going to be super helpful for a lot of people to not have to delve in and become an expert in something that is really just a bridge to getting to the outcomes that they're really after.
Yeah, I know spreadsheets are your thing. I totally, it's a great idea to really leverage those and get into them and do that. So I'm not like saying, spreadsheets aren't good. It's just that as as entrepreneurs, as busy entrepreneurs, there's so many different hats that we have to wear. And I know people like you are helping sellers learn how to scale. And I think one of the lessons that I learned is practice, work on what I'm good at, or stick to what I'm really good at. And that was not spreadsheets in this example.
Yeah, yeah, I can I can relate. Well, you've actually built in the perfect segue there, whether intentional or not. You're talking right now about kind of you've found where you're good at. You've understood that this is where you are going to specialize. Along that journey, and bringing it back to the fact that we're talking about successful scales here. Help me understand some of the things across your journey that have been those real challenging things, those moments where if someone had told you avoid doing this, or this is probably the road less traveled but something you should do, like what are some of the things that for anyone listening out there, what would you say is something that they should be avoiding, or something that's really had impact in your career in terms of this learning curve that we're all going through?
So you guys have, and girls have probably all heard about this before, but it's easy for entrepreneurs. I'll talk for myself. It's easy for myself to get distracted with the next shiny object. And there's multiple times that I look back in the past 5 years that had I not gotten distracted, I would have been way more ahead than even where we are right now. I mean, there's been times where even if I look back to my Amazon business, PPC Entourage was the distraction to the Amazon business. It was like, oh, this is going really well. Let me go and do this. Now, those two things really worked well together and they were compatible. But there's times where I've gotten to things that were completely like physical therapy and e-commerce, completely different. And it's so easy to get off track that way. So I heard I went to a presentation years ago. Who's the guy from Priceline? Um, I forget his name, but he was there presenting, and he built Priceline.com, and he was talking about how he's built all these successful companies, and the key to him building these successful companies was going all in for about a period of 3 to 5 years, all in, no distractions, one thing, and entirely focused on that one thing. And that really resonated with me at the time. And I think had I gone were to do things differently, I would focus on one thing and simply just go all in, as opposed to having 4 or 5 different pots stirring in the background, on top of what I was doing, my main focus.
I think that's great advice, and that's the eternal battle also for someone like me too. It's you hit the nail on the head. Shiny object syndrome, I think they call it, and it's very easy to see that next opportunity, to see that there's a market for it, and that you can service it, and that you can deliver on it. But um, to go deep, to invest the time, and to stay very acutely focused on what it is you set out to achieve is definitely a fundamental of having success in anything, but also obviously when we talk about scale here, you lose sight of it. So on that journey, right, you're saying that you built PPC Entourage as the distraction, and here we sit today is, you still have multiple businesses, and you've got multiple tools, and you're working on lots of projects, and you're not going to change the DNA that makes you you. And I think that that's also something that is what makes the brilliance behind what guys like you and I do, is that you also need to lean into that and understand that you're probably seeing things that not every single person is, and that is how you can leverage it. But how did you how did you essentially kind of come to that conclusion? What did it feel like? Like what's been the struggle around that? I know you've got a few other opportunities that you're entertaining right now. Like how do you keep that focus? How do you make sure that what does leaning in for 3 to 5 years actually mean to you?
So it's funny you say that because the Amazon business that we had, the e-commerce business that we had, because we were focused on PPC Entourage, and I think PPC Entourage is my passion more than e-commerce. Because we were so focused on PPC Entourage, a lot of things got messed up, and we started to get way distracted with that business. So I witnessed one of my businesses basically go. It started to decay as a result of that focus. What you focus on expands. So what we would do is, like, we thought we were doing the right thing for our e-commerce business, but we were trying to be too aggressive and we weren't focused on that enough. And little by little, there was these little paper cuts that broke down that business enough to the point where it's not where it was 2 to 3 years ago, because we were focusing in on PPC Entourage. So that was a major point right there, because we could have sold that business 3 or 4 years ago for multiple millions of dollars, and we didn't, because we were not focused on that business. We were focused on Entourage. And as you know, I built the margins tool. We also built the spotlight tool, and we have an agency. So like right there is where my focus was. And like we would do things like over order in our purchase orders. And then Amazon would make a mistake. And then, we would not know our margins. And that's how the margins tool came about. So I'm not saying that, I would do anything differently looking back. Because from all those issues that we had, a lot of tools came out about with PPC Entourage and the margins tool. So let me give you an example. We didn't know our margins for our Amazon business, and one day we realized that a big chunk of our margins were being eaten alive by these FBA fees that were just eating alive our different our SKUs. Like one had a 65% FBA fee margin impact. Had I not gone through that experience, I never would have built the margins tool. So out of pain came that need to say, okay, I need to know exactly to the T how much money I'm making in my business, so that this doesn't continue to happen to my Amazon business, and as a result, help other Amazon sellers in the process. The same thing with the bulk editor for PPC Entourage. I listened to Amazon when they told me to update my bids, because we had this grandiose scheme to increase our sales by, whatever percentage with a certain ACOS. And they said, all you have to do is upload this bulk file. Well, I didn't know any better 2017. I figured they knew better. I did that. It screwed up everything, Yanni. Everything. My bids went to hell in a handbasket. We started spending a ton of money on PPC where we had it all dialed in before. Well, as a result of that, we built the bulk editor inside of the PPC Entourage tool. I needed a quick solution to fix everything. So I wouldn't change it because of what came from it, but I would now in the future learn from those mistakes and say, okay, I need to be dialed in. I can't be 20 million directions. Otherwise, things like that can happen again. And I also realized that not only do I need to be dialed in, but the people that I work with, my partners, have to be dialed in as well. And I'm going to share another mistake that we made in that business. My best friend that I grew up with in first grade became my business partner in my Amazon and in Entourage business. We became business partners together. He
You guys still partners? You guys still friends?
We still are. I just texted him before. We're really good friends. We actually did the, what we did, rum
Good.
tasting the other day.
Good to
So we're
hear.
cool. Everything's good, really good. But there was a difference there. He's still working full time and I'm not. So that energy, that focus, that intensity was not there for him in terms of his focus on this project. And it wasn't good for the business as a whole. And why I'm saying this is if you're looking to go into business and you're looking to take on a partner, make sure that they're also focused fully in on what you're doing, as opposed to being distracted with 4 or 5 different things. Because it's great to have that support, and it could be anyone to have that support to support your business. But is it the right fit for you right now to help you really get to where you want to be if you're going to scale? And looking back, him and I have had this conversation. We said, yeah, it looked good at the time, but he was, still working and it probably wasn't the best fit. And now we know that going forward. And now there's another lesson for me as I go on to my future.
I mean, that's a great learning, and I had a similar learning, but I think I was trying to go down the solopreneur route, and I realized like as much success as you can have as an individual, and even when you build teams around you, for me, it was really important to have a partner and really partners in everything that's being created to have that sounding board. I feel like I'm a little bit like you in that where I won't actually speak for you, but for me, I have 20 ideas a day. Maybe if I'm lucky, one of them is going to be a good idea. And so I have someone who's really holding those balances and checks and are as committed as I am to the vision and the direction and driving, into the same direction. So they'll pull me up and say, hey, call your jets. Let's think about this for a couple of months before we decide to pivot the entire operation into a new market or a new direction. And I think that, yeah, that the exactly what you're sharing, having someone that's on the same page and as invested as you are, living and breathing the delivery is essential to see, the true success of the business come to life.
Yeah, and ideally that person is complimentary, just like you said, and can help you steer your decisions in the right directions. Because I get on a wild tangent too at times, like you said, 20 ideas a day, it happens. So well said.
And on that point too, something from me or my experience is that you're having all these ideas and you're trying to take over the world and do all that you can to have the most impact and support your employees and your clients and your partners and every single person that you can. But I think that when we talk about focus and you kind of talked about the fact that you've got the margins tool and PPC Entourage and the agency, and there's probably 10 other tools that you're probably working on right now. The reality is like having the right people who actually can deliver on that operational level are instrumental. Like when I meet anyone who's a COO or an ops manager, for me, those are the people that I'm essentially like in awed by. I am not that person. And so what they can do in a day, in a week, in a month and bring it all together, it's like I wish I had that skill. I don't. So I think that I don't know. Is that something that resonates with you when you talk about how you're actually bringing it all together? Like, what does your team look like inside of PPC Entourage and the agency?
Yeah, I didn't realize how much or how important that was to bring things all together until I started my first business. I was doing home care physical therapy, and it was all in the home. And we had people calling me, and I had to do billing, and we had therapists calling me, and everything was coming to me. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is not going to work out. So back then, I started building systems. I started building a system for onboarding new clients, a system for training new therapists, all the stuff, and it was all web based. So I do get a rush out of building the systems myself. I don't think it's my forte. I think creativity is something that I'm really good at, but I love also building systems and tweaking those systems along the way. So we have systems now for everything. We have systems for the Blueprint series, the Playbook series to train other Amazon sellers to learn some of the different strategies involved with setting up their campaigns. We have a system for onboarding a new client that's really thorough. Like if somebody comes in our system, they're actually pretty impressed by the system that they go through and how thorough the evaluation is of their account and what their what we go through in terms of evaluating their margins, evaluating their brand, evaluating their profit margins, like their goals, everything, putting everything all together. So in answer to your question, we have a ton of systems in place. It's still getting better. Like there's things that I realize still need some work and improvements and tweaks. But for the most part, I love taking a system and making it work and seeing everything come to life. And then in terms of the operational manager, I have a rock star on my team who makes it all happen. I mean, he is an absolute rock star. He takes whatever idea I have for a system and he just makes it 10 times better. And then he implements and sets up all the triggers, the alerts, the emails, all the kind of things that just make it very smooth and seamless as we go. So without him, I think I'd be in a world of hurt. He's a big rock star on our team that helps to put all the pieces together.
Love that. And yeah, I mean, I literally built a company to support exactly that. So I know the value of, the business analysts and the ops managers and the consultants that can actually help kind of piece that all together. I had a question for you and now I've forgotten it, but I'm going to go and lead him with another one. And
Sure.
I've got it. I've got it. I was going to say to you, I mean, I'm like you. I love building a process. My favorite thing in the world is building a process and, kind of crafting it. And that's where the magic happens around the creativity, figuring out how to create that level of efficiency that, you could only dream of. How good are you at following those processes though, my friend? That's my question to you.
Yeah, that's the fun part is creating it. The hard part is actually following through. And that's why I have the rock star on my team to help me follow through. And occasionally he'll get I can hear it in his voice. He'd be like, well, you were doing it this way before. And, what happened to that? And, so I need him to balance out everything and to execute really well because I, like you, love enjoying building the systems. Like we're working on new SOPs and that's basically what all the software tools are. It's just a bunch of systems that are built out to turn into a piece of software. That's all it is. So you get to use that creative energy, that creative flow. It's amazing. But then you know what I need? I need a really good system for myself to make sure I do everything that I put together. So I have a whiteboard behind me and there's daily tasks, there's weekly tasks, there's monthly tasks, and we follow objective and key results. I'm sure you're aware of that book, Measure What Matters.
Mm-hmm.
But we follow that as our system to align our team together to hit the target and hit our goals. But I would say in answer to your question, without a system for myself in place, I would be all over the place. I wouldn't be able to follow it quite that well.
Yeah, I mean, I had to ask the question because, as we speak more and more, I feel like we have a lot of similarities there. And the solution in our business is that Yanni's not allowed to go near anything inside of the operation because he breaks it. So, I always laugh with the consulting team. I'm like, I swear, I'll send you my resume. Please just look at it. I would love to be a consultant on the team, looking at other people's businesses, getting into the nitty gritty and fixing it. And they're like, there's no way you are working with us. Like, you will destroy everything. You'll derail all the conversations. Nothing's going to run on time. Like, you just do what you do and we'll do what we do. So yeah, it sounds like it's a little bit of me and you there too.
Yeah, it sounds like there's some similarities, who knows, maybe we're the same type of entrepreneur, everyone's a little bit different, but that's how I operate.
Love it. Okay. So, you've gone through building, a number of these tools. We're talking PPC Entourage here. We had a bit of a conversation before around kind of the language that it's built in and, hard decisions to make around the business as you grow and as you scale and as you look to the future as to like, what's the direction of the company? What's the smartest move for me as a business owner to make in terms of making sure that the ship is still kind of going in the right direction here. Is there anything that you would say, more so looking back historically, that you would have done differently, knowing what you know now about, anything? It doesn't have to be necessarily related to PPC Entourage, the agency, but is there anything that you would, in hindsight, have done differently?
Yeah, 1,000%, 1,000%. So many things. So first off, I would get my foundation and structure in place right from the start. And I think the next project that I really dive into, I'm going to have this advantage as an entrepreneur Because right now, what we're doing with PPC Entourage is we're going back to the things that never really had a strong foundation. And I'll give you an example. Our branding. You used to go to our website and you would see people would like kind of wonder what our company was all about. We had 3 different tools, we had an agency, but if you went to the homepage, you just saw information about PPC Entourage. There was no structure or clarity. So we spent a lot of time working on our branding, our core messages. We read a lot of books. We got a new website in place, SEO structure, all the stuff that is great for a super strong foundation. Consulted with the right people, knowing that it's great to know that it's together now. But I mean, we've been a company now for 4 or 5 years. I wish it was together back in 2016. So I would say that is a big piece. And also back in 2016, like I said, Yoni, I dove into this not knowing what I was really doing. So in terms of structure of the actual software itself, had I known more about the different opportunities or different things that were available to me at the time, probably would have made a different decision back then, which would have saved us a lot of time and energy. So in retrospect, I think having a really good strong core foundation and working on the foundational things, knowing your brand messaging, having all your systems in place, knowing your core offers, making sure all of that stuff is solid from the very beginning, and then moving on from there is good, as opposed to piecemealing it together as you go, which is what we did.
I think that is absolutely sound advice, and it's exactly what we preach day in, day out in terms of the consulting practice, is that put a plan together and execute. Don't try and make it up as you go along, because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I'm sure this quote is going to come up time and time again, but yeah, I mean, that is such sound advice. Is, it takes a second to know what effective planning looks like, and building a roadmap and building a goal. And it doesn't necessarily need to be something that is so well oiled and, this 100-page document. You could have something like a business model canvas or something to that effect, where you just put the business idea, how you're going to attract the clients, how you're going to build it out, having your financials intact, and going at that level is still better than having nothing in place at all. And I think we're all kind of going down that journey of figuring out. But yeah, to echo your position too, like, we're working on a SaaS solution ourselves right now to support the Scala business, and we're doing literally a 6-week it's a 6-week excursion into actually understanding, what does the landscape look like? What's it going to take to develop? What sort of team do we need? How, what language are we going to leverage? What are we going to actually have as the output? What does the target audience look like? Let's ask the questions. Let's understand the business problems that we're trying to solve. Like, for 6 weeks, we're just trying to identify the product market fit before we even put, forget a single line of code, a single, bit of pen to paper as to what does this thing look like in its future state.
That's 6 weeks well spent. That's that planning, that foundation, that structure. I mean, you may decide not to go forward with this project, and how much time and energy could that save you in the future? And then another example, like, we didn't have our brand marketing or message together. And then if you're spending money on advertising, you don't have that stuff together. How is the team that you hire, that you work with, going to know exactly what type of message to put forward? How much money are you wasting on advertising right there? So that's 6 weeks that you're putting into this. I mean, that's something that, going forward in the future business, what is 6 weeks in the time in general scheme of things? It's really not that long at all.
It's
And I saw
nothing.
what you do. It's super thorough, though. Holy mackerel. I was impressed.
Thanks, mate. Yeah. We were going through the whole Scala service offering, and yeah, that's the level of planning that goes into everything. It's funny. You'll go to the plumber's house and he'll have a leaky faucet. I think, like, what is typically innate is that, like, I always look at our recruitment process and I'm like, well, we cut a few corners for ourselves. Like, we would never ever hire someone for another client if we did do the background checks. And, like, sometimes we'll be like, we really need them, we're growing so quickly, and you make those mistakes on yourself. So I guess the point I'm making here is that we're actually taking this project so seriously that 6-week investment, we're going to the nth degree. We're treating ourselves as if we're a client of Scala, and where we might decide the timing's not right, it's not the right investment. But like you said, if you invest that time up front, it's going to reduce the the speed to market, or make it a lot faster when you actually know where you're driving toward, instead of trying to figure it out while you go along.
That's genius. Well said.
Yeah.
Big nugget right there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I mean, we've covered a ton of points here, and I think what's really beautiful about your story when we talk about PPC Entourage is the fact that you ran into problems and you found ways to solve your problems, that you then realized that, well, there's going to be a lot of people that were experiencing these same problems, and that's how you kind of went down your journey. And here you find yourself with multiple tools in market and an agency solution. And I'm sure, the next time we catch up, there'll be a million other things that have been brought to light, and additional, value propositions inside of the tools you have and beyond. But in going through this journey, and the idea really is, people listening is, people might be in different stages of their journey, whether they're an existing business owner, whether they're an aspiring entrepreneur, or someone just getting started or looking to scale their Amazon business. Like, when you look at the way in which you kind of assess the criteria around, do I get into this business? Do I take on this partner? Like, how far do I push? Do you have any sort of, I want to use the word methodology, but that's probably too high level for this, but do you have any process in your head that you kind of assess as to, how do I take that step? Is this the right step for me? Like, what's the big yes and what's the big no attached to it?
Well, that's a really big question. And a lot of it is going to seem like crazy, but a lot of it is gut instinct and intuition, which I follow. I meditate and I follow that. And sometimes things just feel good and feel bad. Now, I don't want to make all decisions based on that type of feeling, but a lot of times, like, I'll get this nasty feeling in my body, like, well, that's just not for me, or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. So I've tuned myself to listen to that sort of thing. Like, when I get passionate and excited about an opportunity that I think can really help sellers, I think that's a good starting point to really doing some of the investigative work that you talked about. So a lot of it is gut instinct and intuition, and just knowing, and then talking. We have a large base of people that we can ask, we can talk to now. If I have an idea, I can say, hey, is this something that would help your business? Yes or no, and how can it be improved? So we go back and ask and do some surveys and see if it's something that would resonate with our target audience. But then in terms of getting into new business arrangements, I think part of that intuition takes some of the experience. It comes from taking some of the experience that you have in the past, some of the mistakes that you've made in the past, and you can boil that into what that intuition and that gut feeling actually is. So all the lessons that I've learned, if I go into a new project and I know that I need a full-time partner, I know that, I've had experiences recently where people want to partner full-time, or they want to be partners with me, but they're still working, or they're still doing 1,000 different things. And I know from experience, that's not it. That's not good for me. So I also look at past experience. I don't have a direct system in place. Believe it or not, a lot of what I do is gut instinct and intuition. And then I'm always learning, always growing, always educating myself, never stopping the process of reading books and podcasts and meditating and exercising. Even though this year is a little bit rough with that, I gained some weight.
You look great, mate.
Yeah, thanks. But all of those things, I think, help to make better decisions. The experience, the intuition, keeping yourself right in terms of your health, your energy, and that's how I go about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's, again, sound advice. And I'm sure if you took the time to think about what that gut instinct actually looked or felt like, I'm sure you'd actually probably find similarities as to that decision-making process for yourself. Like, maybe it's a period of time where, it doesn't, in my experience too, and, I don't know how much we've spoken about this, you and I, but, I've had a couple of negative experiences when it comes to partners and making decisions. And I've got to say that, maybe not from day one, but it didn't feel right. It really didn't feel right for a long time. And when
It's
something,
there, it's real, it's there.
it's real. It's real. Like, when it doesn't feel right, it's probably not. And sometimes you can't exactly quantify it, but, for me, and my philosophy is, the people that I work with, you are spending most of your waking hours, whether it's in the office or, we all work remotely with one another. The reality is, I spend most of my waking hours dealing with all of these people that I get to speak with every single day. And so, picking those partners, picking the people that you actually want to work with day in, day out, whether it's the company culture that you go and work for, or whether it's you running a business, whatever it is inside of the ecosystem, making those decisions on who that person is or that company is and what they stand for, I think will alleviate a lot of the stresses that you feel in that gut instinct of this doesn't feel right. You should, in ways, trust your gut, but have some sort of system in place to understand, a number of times, okay, this isn't a right fit for me, or this isn't the right person for me. But yeah, I think
I suspect the ideal situation would be to trust your gut and then go through that whole 6-week process that you just went through and you're talking about to make sure your
yeah,
gut is accurate.
yeah.
Do both.
Do the gut check and then do a full data analysis, look at the financials, understand what the
Exactly. Yeah.
scalability and feasibility of the business is, and then yeah, go through it totally. I think they all work in harmony, and that's really kind of the system that you build to make good decisions around it.
Hey,
So
Yoni, talking about gut check, the number one thing that I've ever done in my life where I felt things were super like aligned and ready to go was Days of Nuggets. The first year of Days of Nuggets. When I did that, I don't know if your audience knows about that, but it's a charitable event to raise money for Operation Underground Railroad. And the idea came and it was like instantaneously, I don't give a crap about anything else. This is what we're doing. And then the entire team was like, this is what we're doing. We'll do it. Everyone was behind it. And there was no time to do it was literally like 6 hours to get ready for it. Cause it
wow,
was
that
like a
was the
10
first
day.
that was the first year of it. You had 6 hours to get ready for it.
No, we had 10 days to get ready for it, but there was no time to spare. We had 10 days to launch. So it was an amazing feeling. And if I go back to that feeling, that was it. That was like, wow, this is really powerful,
Just
passionate,
just
intense.
just give anyone, sorry to cut you off, but like for anyone who is listening in, maybe just talk a little bit more about Days of Nuggets and the actual, Operation Railroad. Sorry.
Yeah, it's Operation Underground Railroad, which is it's an organization that helps to fight child trafficking. So essentially, every $2,500 that they raise is enough for them to break up these rings and free these kids from like the horrors that is child trafficking, like literally like the worst, most unimaginable conditions. Whatever we think, it's like 20 times worse. And these kids are all across the globe, to the tune of millions of kids. So it's a very big problem. But in the last few years, there's a lot of companies out there that are really getting the word out there. I heard about it at an event, Ryan Daniel Moran's event, and I know they speak at ClickFunnels and Tony Robbins events and everything. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs that when there's time when they are going to donate money at the end of the year, they donate to OUR to save money for this great thing that they're doing. So we decided to do Days of Nuggets. Essentially, Days of Nuggets is our way of giving back. And it's a collaboration with experts in the space of e-commerce to each form a 3 to 5 minute long piece of content, a valuable piece of content, so that that piece of content gets shared and then we raise money for Operation Underground Railroad. So we've raised thousands of dollars. We've got not millions, hundreds of thousands of views. It's just the second year. And next year, I think we need to tune it a little bit because I think we could do even better next year. But the point is, I've never seen a community align behind something so quickly just because of the fact that it was for these kids. It was for this mission to raise money and awareness for these kids who were going through trafficking. And it was a really special thing that we were all part of.
That's exactly what I was looking for, Mike. Let's lift it up, mate. Let's get Days of Nuggets absolutely humming, and let's see what we can do to impact more children's lives. Because yeah, Operation Underground Railroad, it'll resonate with some people, but I think that at its core, what you're actually standing for and the mission. I got involved this year, and honestly, it was an honor to be able to give up any bit of time or any bit of information or anything that I could or we could as a business to help support such a noble charity. So, I mean, commending you for starting that, for making it happen. I know that a lot of work goes into it, and it definitely is rewarding in that you're seeing the impact of every dollar raised has an impact on actually saving a child's life, which is it's incredible. So hats off to you,
Yeah,
my
so at least
friend.
thanks. Yeah, it's the least I can do, and I hope that we can grow it to save as many kids as possible in the future. But thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, we're coming to the end here, and I always love to I'd love to hear maybe from you if you've got any kind of closing thoughts or any words of wisdom to anyone on the scale of whether they're starting out, whether they're running a business, one sort of key word of advice, or you can even have a sentence or a paragraph. But
Oh,
any
I got it.
any insight,
Yeah,
yeah, that
uh,
you can share.
I'm going to give myself this advice as I give it to everyone else. Work just as hard on yourself as you do on your business. This is something that when I built several big businesses back from 2015 to 2017. Looking back, what I was doing back then was a little different than what I was doing right now in terms of my daily routines. That was the most crushing I ever did in my entire life in terms of just like creativity and just energy output and all of these different things. And the one common denominator was I had a rock solid routine for working on myself. So I would say working on yourself just as hard as you work on your business, because you are the single best asset in your business.
Dropping absolute value here, Mike. I couldn't agree more. I think that you summed it up perfectly. If you're not operating at your optimal, then everything is going to be hurt on the back end of that. And so, you're hopefully you build systems and your business isn't entirely reliant on you, but for you to really get the most out of it, you need to be at your optimal. So really sound advice. Mike, before I thank you for coming on one last time, if anyone listening out there would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to get into the agency or PPC Entourage? How do they get in touch?
Yeah, head on over to our website, ppcentourage.com, and we have a free 28 video playbook series, which goes over all the different types of campaigns that you can set up across all the different ad types. You can go there. That's available for free on our site. You can always email me, Mike at ppcentourage.com, or head to Facebook or YouTube, the Entourage Seller Community. We post daily on Facebook in our group. And also we do weekly videos on YouTube and come out with some really good stuff to help sellers grow their business through advertising.
Just giving out things for free, charity. Mate, Mike, you're just an all-around good guy. You've given me an hour of your time here. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very, very much for coming on and taking the time to speak with me. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me on. And thanks everyone for listening.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.